Comic books have been a staple of American culture for nearly a century. These heroes in disguises have varied from simple everyday crime fighters to omnipotent beings wielding immense power. It's almost impossible for any newcomer to fully grasp the full history and origins of these heroes and their foes. One of the most popular heroes to stand the test of time is Batman. Debuting back in 1939 of Detective Comics number 27, Batman was created to emulate the popular pulp comics of the time with inspiration drawn from Zorro and the Shadow. Batman's history progressed quickly, with different behaviors and mythos being developed for the character. Despite his early developments, the origin story of Batman has remained mostly intact. As introduced in Detective Comics number 33, Batman was inspired to become a crime fighting detective after the murder of his parents by the street thug Joe Chill. Being left a fortune and a large estate, Bruce Wayne trained his mind and body to become the hero Gotham City needed. While iconic and unchanged, Batman's origin and early years were relegated to single issue comics designed for kids to read at 10 cents an issue. It wasn't until much later that Batman would become the serious and grounded hero that many fans know him for today. What started out as a pulp detective comic quickly became light and quirky, capping off with the 1960s hit TV show. The history of Batman had become long drawn out by this point into the 1980s, and DC Comics were looking for a reintroduction to Batman, one that could be taken seriously while honoring the true origin of Batman as created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Rallying off of his successes with acclaimed comic arcs of The Dark Knight Returns and Daredevil Born Again, Frank Miller was recruited by DC Comics to retell the Batman origin story and print what I believe is the best starting point for anyone getting into Batman comic books. Today we are going over Batman Year 1, a 4-issue collection written by Frank Miller and illustrated by Dave Mazzucchelli in 1987. Collecting Batman issues 404 through 407, Miller details Batman's experiences during his first year of crime fighting in Gotham City. The story also has a focus on Jim Gordon, the eventual commissioner of the Gotham City Police Department. Miller masterfully weaves their stories together and is able to shape how corrupt and destitute Gotham City is through the eyes of both protagonists. Miller remains true to the origins of Batman from 1939, but is able to show a new side of Batman, one where he is young and inexperienced, but is able to quickly learn from his mistakes and become an effective crime fighter. While starting in the Golden Era gives you the true chronology of Batman's tales, Batman Year 1 is arguably an even better place to start, not only for its amazing story and refocus on the grounded reality of Batman, but also for being a great jumping off point for some of the best Batman stories that extend into the Bat family as well. This will be the start of your adventure into Batman, leading into the Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and the origin stories of his sidekicks through the years. Part 1, Issue number 404. It's January 4th in Gotham City, and we see narration from James Gordon lamenting his transfer to Gotham City as he rides the train to work. He's flying in his wife Barbara, hoping that she doesn't see Gotham for what it is. Conversely, Bruce Wayne is flying into Gotham, echoing the thoughts of Gordon. He sees Gotham as a work of achievement from above, but says he should have taken the train to see the enemy within. Gordon is hoping his wife's pregnancy test is negative, to avoid raising a child in Gotham City as he's approached by Detective Flass to bring him to his first meeting with Commissioner Loeb. We get our first taste of how crime is handled in Gotham with Flass's quote of "Cops got it made in Gotham." At the airport, Bruce Wayne is assailed by reporters as they are all wondering where the richest man in Gotham has been for the past 12 years. Back to Gordon, we get more insight into the state of justice within Gotham City as a news reporter details that conspiracy charges against Commissioner Loeb have been dropped by Harvey Dent due to a key witness disappearing. Loeb and Gordon go over Gordon's file from his past, and we learn that Gordon has somewhat of a history, but assures Loeb that his honesty is nothing for the commissioner to worry about. Bruce is greeted by his butler Alfred as he returns home to Wayne Manor and looks forward to greeting his mother and father. Flass pulls the car to a sudden halt and approaches a group of young men on the street. He begins to assault one of them as Gordon is forced to watch from the patrol car. Gordon restrains himself, telling himself he needs all of the facts in line before turning in another cop. Instead, he watches how Flass fights and memorizes it for future reference. Back to Bruce, we see him visiting his parents, two matching headstones that remind the reader that his parents are dead, taken by the city that he has returned to. February 12th. Gordon and Flass are on their way to a homicide scene, and Flass is talking to Gordon in a good cop way about his growing reputation within the GCPD. Flass mentions that Jim came down hard on another cop, Morgan, and gives a hint of a threat that the GCPD does things its own way, and Gordon should relax with a baby on the way. Guess those results came back positive after all. February 21st. Bruce is training on the grounds of Wayne Manor, trying to figure out what is missing from his action plan. He has the skills and the methods, but he needs to wait for now. February 26th. Flass is complaining to Loeb about Gordon's integrity and wants to soften him up with the boys, but Loeb insists that he waits until he's out of town. There's heat on Loeb right now, and he doesn't want to be implicated in an internal scandal, showing the degree of corruption within the GCPD. March 11th. Bruce is in his car applying a disguise for his first mission in Gotham. He claims it is a recon mission and needs to avoid combat until he is ready. Gordon is on a night shift that he desperately wants off of and thinks about his wife and unborn child that he is already hoping is a boy. Suddenly, he is approached by four shadowy figures holding bats, and they let Gordon know that he's going to be late for work. Gordon is no slouch and predicts the attack from behind, disarms one of the thugs, and fends off the next. Gordon is easily outnumbered, however, and the thugs put the beat down on Gordon. They issue vague warnings to Gordon, but Gordon recognizes a familiar laugh during all of this, belonging to Detective Flass. Meanwhile, Bruce is making his way through the worst parts of Gotham and finally makes it to the East End, the worst of it all. Adult stores and theaters are at every turning point, and Bruce is in disbelief that it has actually gotten worse. Bruce is approached by a young woman of the night, but is turned away by her pimp since Bruce is an undercover cop. Bruce begins provoking the pimp as Selina Kyle looks down at the scene. The pimp pulls a knife on Bruce, but is easily disarmed by Bruce's martial arts techniques. Bruce doesn't anticipate the workers turning on him, though, and is stabbed in the leg as he has to fend off three attackers. Bruce knocks over a worker named Holly, and Selina jumps into the scrap after realizing her friend has been hurt. Bruce realizes the mess he's in and has to fight off Selina as well, and comments that she has training and is more skilled than the rest. Cops show up and immediately open fire on Bruce. Bruce gets shot and is pilfered as the cops decide to book him before treating his wound. Bruce wakes up in the back of the squad car, grits his teeth, and snaps the cuffs holding him. He takes out the cops, causing the squad car to crash. The car catches fire and Bruce gets the cops out of harm's way before the fire or an explosion take them all out. Bruce makes it back to his car, but is bleeding out fast and needs to make it home before he is caught. Also bloody and bruised, Gordon is asking around where Flask is and learns that it's poker night with the guys. Gordon makes his way out and passes by Bruce on the highway as the two beaten heroes nearly collide with one another. Bruce realizes that it is fear that is missing and needs to learn how to make his enemies fear him. Gordon makes it to the house that Flass and the guys are at and watches as each person leaves the house to go home. Flass finally emerges, drunk and staggering, and leaves in his car. Gordon follows him and runs him off the road. Gordon shows himself and gives Flass the bat to use in their fight as they square up to each other. Just like Flass did, Gordon beats him up enough to embarrass the detective, but still enough intact that he doesn't need to go to the hospital. To embarrass him even further, Gordon strips him naked in the snow, cuffs him, and leaves him out in the woods. Gordon learns that intimidation and fear are the only way to keep himself and his family safe in Gotham. Bruce makes it home and calls on the memory of his father to give him inspiration, figure out how to invoke fear into the criminals of Gotham. He has all the pieces in place except for that fear. He remembers the night they died, 18 years ago, and the night that all sense left his life. Suddenly, a bat comes crashing through the window of his house, as if by divine inspiration, and he remembers how much the bat frightened him as a boy. His enemies shall share his fears, and decides to become a bat. Bruce rings his bell to get treated by Alfred, and the Batman is born. Part 2, number 405. It's April 4th, and Gordon is on his way to a hostage situation. A paranoid schizophrenic by the name of Albert Bloom is holding 3 children at gunpoint and can't be reasoned with. Through broken comms, Gordon hears the name Brandon and turns on the afterburners to get to the crime scene. He implies that his unit will kill Albert and possibly the children as well. Gordon pulls up to the scene before Brandon's team can take any action and immediately takes charge. He shows Albert his gun and drops it on the ground outside of the apartment building before he heads up to reason with the kidnapper. Gordon hopes Barbara isn't watching as we ironically see a panel of her doing just that. Gordon notices every nervous tendency of his as he makes his way up the stairs to confront Albert. He gets close enough to disarm him and lays him out on the floor while thinking of the trauma being inflicted on the children. April 5th. The next day, Brandon is complaining to Commissioner Loeb about Gordon embarrassing his team. But Loeb is reluctant since Gordon is winning the favor of the press. Gordon is seen in the range, firing shots at a target dummy, imagining every gruesome outcome of each shot he lands on a person. Self-loathing settles in with each kick of the gun. The gun kicks transition into baby kicks on April 6th as Gordon feels his wife's stomach and the baby kicking inside. The self-loathing remains with each kick as he regrets bringing a child into this life, a city without hope. The word hope trails off into the next panel, showing a caped silhouette gliding into the dark hours of the night. April 9th. Gordon has the night off and is enjoying his time with his wife. After a back massage and a light reference to Superman, the phone rings for Gordon. Sergeant Merkel is on the line with information about a giant bat. The bat appears as it frightens a group of petty thieves on a fire escape. Batman comes swooping down, ready to take on the biggest of the bunch, until the plan immediately goes haywire. One of the thieves falls out the escape before being caught by Batman to prevent him from falling 20 stories up. The other thieves seize their opportunity and begin to assault Batman while he is busy holding the thief. Batman fends off one of the thieves while holding the boy and waits for his opening to neutralize the second. He grabs the attacker's leg, knocks him out on the grating, and makes sure all of the thieves are alive. May 15th. Gordon is holding a meeting with the GCPD to discuss the Batman and how they plan to apprehend the vigilante. Flash is clearly spooked by the Batman, insisting that he is not human. Gordon tries to understand his pattern of activity as Detective Essen lights a cigarette for him. Gordon notes that Batman has been working his way up from street-level crimes to more organized efforts, including cops who might be helping perpetrate those crimes. Gordon asks Flash for his account of the Batman, and his bruised face and neck begin to make more sense. Flash alleges that he received an anonymous tip about an East End cocaine delivery and went to apprehend the criminals himself. An obvious lie, but he recounts giant wings flapping and Batman flying down on the crew, dodging bullets, throwing batarangs, and having claws. The GCPD begin laughing at Flash for this hyperbole, and Gordon insists that he continue through his own chuckling. May 19th. Batman decides to take his operation to the next level and visits the mayor's mansion. He easily disables the guards as he prepares his assault. Inside, we see Loeb on the phone with Gordon as he denies Gordon's request for personnel to apprehend Batman. Batman notices that Gordon pisses off the right people, as Loeb actually defends Batman due to the drop in crime in the past weeks. The attendants of the dinner debate about the influence that Batman is having on the city, and we are introduced to Carmine Falcone, known as the Roman, one of the leading crime bosses of Gotham. Harvey Dent is a thorn in his side, but before they can discuss it any further, Batman throws a smoke grenade through the window into the mayor's dining room. Batman cuts the lights and throws another grenade to take down the wall of the mayor's house. In an absolute stellar panel, Batman presents himself to Gotham's elite and corrupt, tells them that they have eaten Gotham's wealth and its spirit, and that none of them are safe. May 20th. Commissioner Loeb has changed his tune on Batman and puts the task and blame on Gordon to catch him. June 2nd. Batman witnesses a mugging in the East End but recognizes it for the ruse that it is. He knows all the characters of the setup and doesn't take the bait. June 5th. Carmine Falcone is found hogtied and given the unfortunate news about his Rolls Royce which is in the river. Falcone exclaims he dies, and Batman's list of enemies continues to grow. June 6th. Gordon is meeting with Harvey Dent to discuss Batman and the Falcone situation. Gordon makes some backhanded insinuations about Dent, then asks him about his location on certain dates. After he's done questioning Dent, he leaves, revealing Batman has been there all along working with Dent. Gordon is talking with Detective Essen about possible candidates for Batman, and it turns out Harvey Dent was one of them. Dent has alibis, and Gordon finds it hard to believe someone with his salary can afford all of Batman's weapons. Essen makes that connection to money and puts the pieces together that Bruce Wayne is the most likely candidate to be Batman. Gordon agrees, and their flirtatious nature does not go unnoticed until they are cut off by a truck blowing a red light. The truck is out of control and about to hit a homeless woman down the street. Gordon pushes his car to get alongside the truck, while Batman also sees the catastrophe about to happen and moves to action. Gordon leaps into the truck but can't reach the wheel. As the truck is about to pummel this aloof woman, Batman tackles her and prevents certain death. Gordon briefly blacks out, and when he comes to, sees Essen holding Batman at gunpoint. Essen sees Gordon beginning to get up, and Batman takes the opportunity to disarm her and escape. Backup arrives quickly, letting Gordon know that Brandon is on the way, as Gordon shouts the direction of Batman's escape. Batman takes heavy gunfire, as Gordon realizes that Batman saved that woman. Gordon calls off the gunfire and tries to get Loeb to call off Brandon's assault on Batman. Gordon's request falls on deaf ears as a helicopter comes in to destroy the building and Batman. Part 3, issue number 406. Batman is caught in the destruction of the building that he was hiding in. Contrary to the police reports, there are many people squatting in the building, doomed to die from Loeb's grudge against Batman. As Batman falls, he finds a trap door on the ground floor and picks the lock to hide out inside. June 7th. Selina is woken up by one of her cats as Holly is looking outside at the chaos going on at the deserted building. Brandon's team enters fully armed and doesn't intend to take any prisoners. Selina and Holly turn on the TV to see the assault being broadcast live. Brandon's team sweeps the building, looking for any survivors, but they all appear to be dead. They find the trap door and light it up with heavy fire. They make their way down into the basement as two officers stand guard by an old chimney. Batman appears from out of the chimney and takes out two of the guards. Brandon and his team survey the basement until they hear a thoom from above, and Batman on the radio letting him know he wants them down there. Batman has secured the door with a large beam. Batman drops a gas pellet into the basement as Brandon calls for his other units to converge on Batman. Outside, Gordon is letting the situation play out as Holly and Selina watch from outside of the police line. Loeb's sniper in the helicopter can't see into the building and probably won't until the sun comes up. Batman knows daylight is approaching and prepares his escape with the only survivor, a Siamese cat. Brandon's team makes their way downstairs, and Batman is forced to consider using a small device in his boot that he hasn't tested yet. He pushes a button, and from far away at Wayne Manor, the bats in the cave have awoken to help. Brandon's team tries to lift the beam off the trapdoor as Brandon emerges from the chimney that Batman was hiding in not long ago. As he starts to give orders, a dart enters his neck and puts him to sleep. The SWAT team open fires on the direction of the dart as Batman avoids the gunfire. Batman saves the cat that he was with. The chaos of the gunfire has him and the bystander officer catch stray gunfire. The team closes in on Batman's location, but he kicks a decrepit beam, sending the ceiling down on the officers. Batman takes personal vengeance on the officer who tried to shoot the cat and sends him flying through a brick wall. Gordon looks on at the bloody scene until the rising sun is blacked out by a terrifying sight. Batman continues to work his way through the SWAT team until they also look up and see the swarm of bats coming to Batman's aid. Hundreds of bats come swooping onto his location as Batman steals a motorcycle and escapes. Gordon recounts the aftermath where Loeb and other officers chased the bats to no avail. 4 of Brandon's men were hospitalized, and the collateral dead from the firebombing did not have any family to bring up Brandon's team on charges. June 9th, Gordon is in his office with Essen discussing their number one suspect, Bruce Wayne, of being Batman. Bruce has an alibi of skiing in Switzerland and taking a nasty fall that injures him in the same conspicuous locations as Batman's gun wounds. Essen and Gordon decide to leave, but not without some intrusive thoughts trying to break through Gordon's mind. June 15th, Bruce makes it to Switzerland and makes good on his alibi. He realizes how close his last mission was, and that he needs an ally on the inside, someone like Gordon, to make this work. June 17th, back in the East End, Selina makes a career change, and we are shifted to Gordon and Essen at a late-night diner. They leave after the rain lets up, and he learns they are both from Chicago. The rain returns, forcing them into a small doorway to take cover, and those intrusive thoughts win out, and Gordon kisses Essen. Essen leaves, and we return to the East End where Selina dons the Catwoman suit for the first time. Gordon again laments his decision and recalls how much he and Barbara have been fighting since coming to Gotham City. Sitting on the edge of his bed with a gun in his hands, all he can think about is how backwards the city is, that cops are crooked, and a man dressed as a bat might be the only hope for this city. Part 4, issue number 407, September 2nd. The issue opens up with Gordon calling things off with Essen. Meanwhile, on the news, Gordon is praised for apprehending Jefferson Skeevers, a known narcotics dealer. September 7th. Gordon and Essen share one final kiss as she's transferred to prevent any more regrettable actions. September 10th and 11th. Gordon questions why Harvey Dent let Skeevers out on bail as Batman climbs a wall the next night. We hear Skeevers discussing his case with his lawyer, and Skeevers thinks all is well because of his knowledge of Loeb and Flass. His lawyer thinks he's screwing things up and leaves the apartment. As soon as she leaves, Batman breaks in and smashes Skeevers through his table. Batman uses fear to his advantage, and the next day, Skeevers is in Gordon's office looking to make a plea deal with Harvey Dent concerning information about Flass. September 13th. Loeb has Gordon in his office to reprimand him about turning in Flass to Internal Affairs. Although Gordon feels he has the upper hand the whole time, Loeb reveals an implicating photo of him and Essen that turns Gordon's face green. September 25th. After dodging his calls, Gordon finally gets a meeting with Bruce Wayne, and he sure puts on the charm. Drinking his second bottle of champagne in the morning, he sidles up next to a woman on the couch whose name he has mistakenly forgotten. Gordon gets Wayne's alibis, but is not all convinced that it's not an act. He knows Wayne has secrets, but he feels the guilt of his own and confesses his affair to Barbara. Alfred compliments Bruce on his performance, and we get another Easter egg reference to Superman. Just going to say October because the dates happen fast. Gordon and Dent are going over the evidence against Flass, and the station attempts to blackmail Gordon, but Barbara already knows. Someone poisons Skeevers, but he still agrees to testify against Flass. Batman really put the fear into him. Halfway through the month, Gordon's son is born while Catwoman steals a private collection from Commissioner Loeb. November 2nd. Selina and Holly are trying to figure out how to sell Loeb's merchandise as Loeb places the robbery on Batman. Selina decides to aim higher and steal from Falcone and leave her own mark to make sure that she gets the credit. Meanwhile, Batman has similar intentions as he flies over the Falcone estate. As Falcone discusses minimizing his bad publicity, Catwoman makes her move as Batman watches on. The mob members surround Catwoman, but she's helped by the Cape Crusader as she watches in awe at his combat skills. Seeing her opportunity, Catwoman applies the mark she's been itching for on Falcone. November 3rd. Bruce is going over the recording of the previous night as Alfred passive-aggressively tells him about the negative effects of sleep deprivation. Bruce has a realization and leaves to do some day work. The news demotes Catwoman to Batman's assistant, and Falcone gives instructions to Johnny concerning Gordon. Gordon wakes up to feed his baby, but gets called into work by Loeb. Suddenly, a man speeding on a motorcycle races into Gordon's garage. Gordon's spidey senses go off and returns to the apartment and finds his son held hostage by Johnny. They have Barbara too, and Gordon wastes no time in killing the mobsters. Gordon gets caught on the shoulder, and the car with his son takes off. Gordon hears the motorcycle rev up behind him, shoots the man, and steals the motorcycle. The man removes his helmet and insists to Barbara that he won't let her son die as he takes off after them. It's revealed to be Bruce, and he takes a bicycle to track down Gordon and his son. Gordon pops the tire of the getaway car, and it slams into the beam of a bridge. Gordon prays his son is alive, but he's hit with the car door and struggles with Johnny. Gordon, Johnny, and his son fall off the bridge, but another figure also jumps off, catching the falling baby. Gordon can't see his rescuer without his glasses, but tells the man to leave as he hears sirens approaching. December 3rd. Flash confesses all that he knows about Loeb on the stand, and Loeb's career is as good as done. In our final panels, Gordon is on the rooftop of the station, lighting his pipe, thinking about all the work he has ahead of himself with the new commissioner and an impending mob war. His marriage is on the mend, and he's been hearing rumors of someone who is planning on poisoning the reservoir. The man calls himself the Joker, but Gordon is confident that his new friend will be able to help him. Batman Year One is an absolute masterclass in storytelling through dialogue and art. David Mazzucchelli uses a distinct style of modern artistic techniques and blends it so well with the noir concepts of the earlier Batman works. One could look at the colors and describe it as dark, muted, and overall gray throughout most of the graphic novel. Although this would typically be a negative aspect for most other comic book art, it fits so well with how we are supposed to view Gotham City at this point in Batman timeline. Dark, muted, and overall gray. Very few vibrant colors are used throughout, leading to a homogeneous color palette that gives the reader a mood set by Gotham City. The Batman design in this feature is incredibly classic. A straight black and gray suit donned with a simple black Batman symbol, and the yellow utility belt shows the simplicity of Batman's first suit design that matches his costume from his original debut in 1939, minus the purple gloves. Although we see Batman blundering at times throughout the comic, we're given some amazing panels that encapsulates the fear Batman has learned to invoke in his foes. A very classic look is given to Gordon as well, with his trademark glasses and mustache, outlined by his square jaw and red hair. Probably one of the more unique character designs is given to Selina Kyle. Although still a fan of leather, Selina has a very short crew cut and doesn't display some more of her feminine tendencies that we will see in later versions of her character. Besides reintroducing the above characters, Batman Year One also includes characters that play a huge role in future Batman stories. Most notably, Carmine Falcone is established as the crime boss of Gotham City and will be a central character in the long Halloween that takes place shortly after Year One. Future references will also be made to Loeb, Flass, and Brandon, and together the three of them do a great job showing the reader how corrupt the GCPD has been over the years. Rookie District Attorney Harvey Dent will be one of Batman's closest allies besides Gordon, and though he doesn't play a huge role in this story, he will become pivotal with his rise and fall into madness as Two-Face. As described in the intro, Batman Year One is as much a Year One story for Gordon as it is for Batman. Miller does an excellent job showing the parallels between the two men, both coming to Gotham City as outsiders, both coming in to make a change to the city, both learning how to use fear and influence to make progress, and both learning to have a mutual respect for and trust for one another by the end of the story. I would also say that Year One showed how much more dangerous it was for a normal person to try to make any positive change in the city, and why the Batman needed to be created. Gordon was constantly ostracized by his own department, was threatened and assaulted for doing his job the right way, and even fell into temptation in his affair with Essen. Batman is able to hide behind the cowl and fight crime without any fear of retaliation on those he loved or extortion of Bruce Wayne. It makes the reader dream of fighting injustices like Batman does, but sympathize with Gordon and how hard it is for any normal person to do the right thing in what seems like a hopeless society. Another point that lets the reader focus on the year one aspect of the story is the absence of any core Batman villains. While crooked cops, street thugs, and the mob are all bread and butter for Batman crime fighting, they don't go beyond the grounded reality of what crime is in Gotham City in the real world. Gotham City would become much more of a fantasy if we start off with villains like Mr. Freeze, Clayface, or even the Joker. We can see parallels of Gotham City's crimes with the crimes of the real world, and a direct link to sympathize with Gordon and Batman and their quest to clean up Gotham. Batman Year One also does an incredible job of limiting its dialogue to what is necessary to understand our characters and really takes a great approach to show, don't tell. It's something that has bothered me about comic books of the silver and gold eras, where the dialogue boxes would over explain what the characters are doing. This is a comic book. The medium has the advantage of showing us what is happening. Save the text for dialogue and inner monologue. Reading Batman Year One, you'll notice how limited the text is in the story and how much more of the story is displayed by the panel art itself. It's such a credit to Miller and Mazzucchelli for understanding the right balance of art and story, while also giving credit that the reader is smart enough to figure out what's going on without unnecessary explanations. It's understandable that being a retelling of the Batman origin story, that Batman Year One would go on to influence so many Batman stories in the following years. While not directly planned for this, Batman The Long Halloween and Batman Dark Victory pick up the same story and use all of the same characters introduced in Year One and create a story that balances Gotham's crime underground with Batman's rogues gallery. For those of us more familiar with just the Batman movies, Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins takes a number of influences from Year One. Both stories feature Bruce returning to Gotham after his initial combat training with Ra's al Ghul, his early blunders and learning experiences, his inspiration for choosing the bat as his symbol and crime-fighting persona, and a scene pulled straight out of the comic book pages. As a fan of comic books and as an even bigger fan of Batman, I was compelled to make this my first video about comic books because I think it's one of the best stories and best places to start getting into comic books. I find Batman such a great hero to start with because of his humanity. At the end of the day, he's not a displaced alien from Krypton. He's not an Amazonian warrior. And he certainly wasn't bitten by a radioactive spider and compelled to fight crime with his great power and great responsibility. Instead, he is compelled by his past to make sure that his personal trauma does not become the trauma of future Gothamites. How many other people in Gotham lost their loved ones to crime and violence? How many of them fell into this cycle of violence to perpetuate the destitute status of Gotham? How many dreamed of a better place, but couldn't do so because of wealth or status? Bruce knows he has the resources, the willpower, and most importantly, the empathy and compassion to know that even one good act can inspire others to do the same. He leads by example, and within this story influences Gordon to do the same and gives him hope that together they can make Gotham a better place. And I think that's what makes a true hero. Not the gadgets and martial arts, but the ability to inspire others to do good. And that's what all the best heroes have in common, whether they are created in these stories or they're the everyday people in our own lives. Thanks for sticking around and watching the video. This is the starting point of what I believe is one of the best ways of reading the Batman storylines. Batman Year One perfectly establishes Batman's origins and how he became known in Gotham. Next, I'll be going over The Man Who Laughs, an extended issue that covers Batman's first encounter with the Joker and takes place following the events of Year One. Drop a comment about what you thought about the video and let me know what you want to be reviewed in a future video. Hope to see you all again.